I'll tell you what, if you guys haven't got a jet boil, fantastic things, best thing ever. The only thing is, don't forget to bring a spoon, because if you don't bring your spoon with you, you end up with one of these things for a spoon. Yeah, so a whitebait shit, absolutely terrible, and I thought I'd waste some time on this thing. I've just finished a tenure at Customs on the port at Bluff, and I did a 2-year stint there with the COVID-19 response, with the government's locking the borders down and all that. We were checking the people on the boats for masks and gloves and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, it was quite interesting. I came away from it pretty disillusioned about what Customs does, because what I'm looking for, or what I was looking from, is the point of view of a taxpayer. See, Customs staff are different people altogether than us. We were just normal everyday citizens pulled off the ranks, so to speak, to fill in gaps with this COVID-19 response. And when they shut the borders, we basically checked everything to make sure everybody was wearing their masks and gloves and stuff. But of course, health screwed that up as well, because they don't seem to be able to make decisions that are common sense anymore. In fact, the whole country doesn't make decisions that are common sense anymore. They started off with masks and gloves and then took the gloves away. Well, I mean, it's impossible to check people to see if they've been sanitising hands and stuff. It's absolutely impossible. You're relying on goodwill, so you may as well just not even be there if you're going to do that. The whole thing was quite stupid, really, to be perfectly honest. The job and the people were good, but yeah, the wastage and the stupidity that I saw was just incredible, actually. For example, in the 2 years that I spent there, well, it was actually 18 months exactly in total, because I did the full term, and I was one of the only ones who did do the full term. We only ever saw one drugs operation from the whole Customs community based in our port of Bluff when the Rakiwai was delivered, and there was just that one drugs operation. They brought the dog down, they went over the boat, and then they went home, back to Dunedin. So everything's being run from Dunedin now, and there's one guy left here in Bluff carrying on doing his customs work, and there's no checks and balances, and there's something like 55 ships a year coming to Bluff, and you can bring anything you like off the ship and nobody will be there to check it. I actually saw a guy one night bring what I am absolutely certain was a firearm off the ship. Went on with a raincoat, came off with a long thing. You're not allowed to check anybody. The health and safety rules are so stupid now that you're not allowed to stop anybody. You're not allowed to check anything. We weren't literally allowed to do anything at all, other than sit in the car and with the heater running and watch Netflix. We weren't allowed to do anything. When you've got a society like that and you're going to put people in charge of things and then say you're not allowed to do anything, well, there's absolutely no wonderment in me whatsoever why the gun crime has gone through the roof and the drugs has gone through the roof. Apparently, listening to other officers from further north, Bluff and Timaru and that, they've got the highest rates of methamphetamine turning up in their wastewater that has ever been recorded, and it's just a no-brainer knowing where it's coming from, and the government and the agencies of the government are so incompetent that they can't get themselves into order or want to stop it. They don't want to check anything or do the job like it's supposed to be done. On top of that, you've got things like at the end of our tenure, and this was the second time I saw this happen, the unions made an agreement and gave each other, every single one of their members, $875, and then they backdated their pay and various other bits and pieces, and it turned out to be something like $1,100, which is not a total quotable fact, but that's actually correct. $875 is written down, and it was written in the contract to hand themselves this gratuity bonus for doing nothing other than signing a new contract, which was supposed to be a 3-year contract, but nobody signed that. All of us just did the 1-year thing, and the union members got paid, but everybody else got nothing. The taxpayers in New Zealand are just being reamed out, like every which way you can possibly think of. And at the end of the tenure that we did, they went down to the marae, and we had this sort of a acknowledgement and ceremony to hand out certificates and stuff because we did our job. And the whole thing became not about us doing the job there, but more about going to the marae and having the Maoris put on this celebration and food and everything for everyone, which, don't get me wrong, is fantastic and very much appreciated. But one of the guys there, he said they didn't even know what we did. They had no idea and had no part of it whatsoever at any stage through it, except coming out to one of the ships once that had COVID on it and feeding the crew. Like, they literally mostly didn't know what the heck we were doing and what was going on, and yet this massive celebration with all this Maori stuff just went for like an hour or so, and I think we would have been better off going to the fish and chip shop, to be perfectly honest. And some of us said that because really it's getting beyond a joke. And much as it was appreciated, we could have just got their certificates if they really wanted to give us certificates, and then just had a feed of fish and chips and gone home. It's the end of a contract, the contract's over, and nobody else ever gets paid out these huge bonuses and stuff like that. I've never ever seen that in my life. It's basically theft of taxpayers' money as far as I can see it. And if they'd given it to me, I would have refused it. The first year they told us, oh, here's your bonus for signing your new contract and that sort of stuff, and then told us it was backdated pay. But it's madness. Brings me on to something else I want to touch on, talking of madness. The firearms licensing coming up. Last time we went through this, I had this chick sitting in my lounge after she'd been talking to people and stuff, and starting on with a spiel about how that we as firearms owners had to understand it was a privilege to have firearms licenses and all this sort of stuff. they're pushing this. It's a privilege to have your car, and it's a privilege to have your licenses, and it's a privilege for this, and a privilege to live in New Zealand, and that sort of shit. Well, maybe you guys want to think about the fact that my granddad and father put their lives on the line for you to have a privilege, the privilege of living in this country not under an oppressive dictatorship who would have ruled your life and decided every step of what you did and what you didn't do. So maybe you should think about that being a privilege for a change, because it's telling me it's a privilege to be in my own country that I've grown up in. Wow. Really? So that's going to be great to look forward to. We're losing our identity. We're losing our soul. And New Zealand's lost its, as far as I can see, it's already lost its identity. Everybody's still grimly hanging on to the All Blacks. It's like the last thing left. Everything else has been sold, and it all belongs to foreigners. The land, the businesses. Man, you guys need to wake up, eh? The taxpayers are just being screamed, and tell you what, I'm glad there's no next generation for our family. So, having said that, I'm going to go and check this whitebait net, which is, I know, already shit because it's shit today. And yeah, we'll give it a couple of days and have another crack at it. It's beautiful out here. And of course, it's a privilege to be on the river and not working. So, adios to everybody. I hope you're all having a good whitebait season. Hunting, fishing season coming up and all that sort of stuff. And be safe out there and all that. And for God's sake, customs, get your act into gear, because this no checking people on boats and stuff is just not good enough. I never saw one person be checked on the boats in the whole time I was there. The air border's really tight, but the sea border's just a shambles. You can just carry whatever you like on and off those boats and nobody will check it, and it's just insane. So yeah, that's good. I've had my rant for the day, which is quite cool, considering I've got nothing better to do in the whitebait day and waiting for these little critters to turn up. So we'll go and have a look and see if there's anything in there. Adioses.